Well, welcome to the Energizing America podcast, where we talk all things energy while leading in our business, community, and life.
But I love what you were talking about explaining the why instead of just saying like you're going to get disciplined, right? You really are talking about buy-in. People need to understand why you're going after what you're going in. So like vision casting is great, but you need to explain why does that matter? Why does it matter to them? Like I think sometimes we can explain why it matters to the company, but you have to explain why does it matter to that individual who's right there that this goal happens and what's their role in that goal. And so I think being able to do that is how you get the buy-in, is how you get them to explain it. I think leadership has developed and come a really long way. I think culturally we've had to adjust. I think we used to say, hey, I'm the boss and I said this and therefore you need to do it. And I think people kept their personal lives very separate from their work lives. Like, don't bring your personal in here. But I think people are bringing their whole selves are coming in into work now. And you're having to deal with where people want to understand and they want to be a part of that. Like, it is way harder to teach someone to care than it is to teach someone a technical. I can teach someone how to do a job. It's only a certain amount of time. That is not difficult. Teaching someone to care is harder. And I think that when you as a leader tap into how do you make someone care about this and getting that buy-in, explaining the why, just like what you were stating, they have to understand, like, why does it matter that I'm on time? Why is that critical? How does it impact other people? How does it impact me? How is it going to benefit me when I do it? And when you do that, they're like, yeah, that actually kind of makes sense.
And I think, Destiny, for some of us, as we think about how leadership has evolved and the workplace has evolved over the years, it can be difficult because you're like, I shouldn't have to do that. Or I've had some managers tell me, like, that's not my job. He should just know, he's not sitting in the same meetings I am. And I always tell these folks, try to like embrace the fact that they're bringing their whole selves to work and they've made this a personal and work relationship, because actually you can really make powerful progress with the millennial generation and below, like massive progress, because they have an innate ability to connect their fingers. Well, we're electricians and mechanical folks, so we talk fingers and toes, right? They have an innate ability to connect their fingers and toes at work with their fingers and toes at home. Like it's all one and the same, way more than my father did, way more than my grandfather did. It's so if you can capitalize on it and constantly be pointing back to that why, and for each person it's different, but you can still cast the same vision. The why might be different for each person along the journey, why they're going to that, right? Some people are close to retirement and they're just trying to power through some powerful years to boost their retirement earnings. Well, why? Oh, because they want to go traveling with their wife or their spouse or their grandkids. Well, let's capitalize on that and let's remind them of that. You can turn that into such a positive, even though it might feel a little weird, because yes, it's true. Some people, you're actually an anomaly today. I mean, you said 20 years at the same company. How many people on your team hit 20 years?
I'm the oldest. I joke that I'm the grandparent of my organization because none of them are. The closest one's at 17. I've got a lot at 12. And I've got a lot that are a lot more around that like 5 range. Because the truth is like this new generation, usually what I think statistically, if I remember correctly, the last time I read, is that they'll work at like 5 different companies within their career span. That's actually more common now. So yes, I'm a rarity. It's a rare thing, but it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think oh, so sorry.
No, go ahead. Go.
You mentioned that people talk about that, like, well, I shouldn't have to. And man, that I loved that. And I love that you said it because I think should get completely removed out of leaders. And I'll tell you why. The only thing that really should matter to a leader, the only thing that really matters is what is and where you're going. Should is make believe land of like, I wish upon a star. Like it should doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what should is. What are you really dealing with? Be honest, be totally honest. What is, and then where do you want to go? And what are the steps between those two? Forget should. Should is useless. And so I love when you say, I shouldn't have to. It doesn't matter whether you should or shouldn't. What do you need, and how are you going to get there? What are those steps? And being able to remove that kind of feeling of like, well, I really wish the world worked that way. Leaders don't wish the world worked that way. We look at what is, we create it, and then we build the world we want to live in. That's what we do.
Yeah, more reality driven, right? And I think that's a great point. I know this is just odd to even almost say, but I'm gonna say it because I deal a lot with oil and gas. You're in oil and gas. We were just at a conference together, in fact, and while the oil and gas industry has gotten better at embracing women in leadership and women in the field, and I mean, overall, the world has, right? I was just, as I mentioned yesterday, working up at a mine, and there was a pipe fitter that I graduated with 25 years ago. And like, Laurel, what in the world? You're a pipe fitter. Like, how cool is that? And she said, yeah, worked at a jewelry store for, the first 15 years of my life. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And she said, I always thought back to shop class and how much I loved it. So she's literally a pipe fitter. Good for her. Good on her, and like literally she's the only female in this organization of, I think she said 28 people that were working up at the mine for that particular company yesterday. Awesome. What do you think in today's world? Is it difficult for you to be a woman in a leadership role in oil and gas, or has it never even crossed your mind?
Um, I would not say that it has been difficult. Now, there has definitely been things of facing, and just in giving a little bit of my history on this is, okay, so I'm part of a very large company, $130 billion company, okay? In my company, actually, when I became the ops manager, I was the very first female operations manager to ever hold that, like to ever be in that role. It is historically always been held by men. And it was kind of amazing because I didn't really even realize that had happened until the emails started coming in from different women saying, "Oh my goodness, we've been waiting for a woman to step in this role. Congratulations! Like, thank you. You're paving a way." And I didn't really I didn't set out like I'm going to pave a way. I didn't really intend to do that, but it happened nonetheless. I'm pleased to say that there have been other women operations managers after me, but even HR confirmed it and reached out and they said, yeah, we actually went back and verified it, and you are. And the truth is, I'm actually the only female operations director, and I still am the only one. So I think one of the things is sometimes you just have to get used to realizing that everybody in the room doesn't look like you. And I think that's true whether you're a woman or a male or a different culture or anything. It doesn't matter. You got a seat at the table, and so you don't need to prove anything. I think sometimes people feel like they have to prove something. You don't have anything to prove. You have everything to give and nothing to prove. And once you have that seat at the table, you're already at the table. You don't have to prove that you deserve that seat anymore. I think one of the other things that's been really huge for me is that I have to understand I'm not a man. And that might sound a little crazy, but men have very huge strengths. And we're going to just talk about some of the differences between men and women. Men have certain things that they are really, really good at and that they do easier than women do. It's not that women can't, but they just excel at certain things. Women have certain things that they excel at that men do not excel at, and that men can learn how to do it. But it just doesn't come as natural sometimes as what it does to women. And so what I learned is the things where I needed to learn how to do the same things the men do in certain categories. But in other things, I realized that the reason I was here was because I was leaning into some of those traits, and people loved what I brought to the table. They loved that I brought laughter and smiling a lot and joking and charisma. And I bring a very personal side to things. There's some nurturing in my nature that is there that naturally comes out because it's naturally kind of women are natural do that. They're mothers, a lot of things. So there's certain traits that come out in you. And I've learned that it's okay that that's not some of my other predecessors. I'm a little bit different. We do some things different. I do different competitions. We take a lot of pictures in my division. And I'll tell you, the guys at first were like, what is happening? I'm like, I've taken a picture. And of course, everyone takes a picture
Yeah. And
And
you're
then I'm
like, no,
like, all
no.
right, now we're doing a fun photo. Everyone hands in the air. And they're all like, you know, now the whole division is used to it. They love the photos. And then I found other divisions are starting to do the same thing where like they're celebrating something and they throw their hands in the air. It's like, it sounds stupid. We work hard, but it's also okay to have fun at work and like enjoy it. And when people enjoy their job, they're better at it. But anyways, like those are just some of the things that are me. So I've had to learn that. But I've also had to learn like, hey, when you go into a room and all the directors, the VP senior leadership, there's a cadence. So you need to slow down and you can't talk as fast. And I need to meet that. So like there's things you need to like say, hey, I need to learn how to do this well. And then other things where it's like, hey, this is some of the beautiful things about me being who I am, and I'm just gonna lean into those. And so it's been a great opportunity. I'm super excited. I'm proud. I think that the truth is, if we want to see more women overall in the industry, you have to have schedules that work for women. And I think that that really is what it comes down to. And I've been extremely fortunate, but I will tell you that I was married. I've been married twice. And so I was married with really young kids. And that was super difficult. I had to live close to family. I needed my family to help with the kids. I went through a divorce and I became a single mom for 7 years where I had 2 kids. Also, I needed to live close to where my family was because I needed my family to help support and watch those kids when I was at work. Now I'm in a season where I've been married, and actually my husband I'm married to now, there was a season he was a stay-at-home dad because I'd moved up in leadership to a point where like I needed someone to handle all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the doctor's appointments. And we have 6 kids together. So like it's a lot of those. And so like I've had to learn in different phases. I've excelled and exceeded because there was grace in the different seasons I was in. When I was pregnant, sometimes I had to work from home. I was very sick. I threw up, and I had a boss that had grace for me and allowed me to do that. And he didn't make me feel bad, and he didn't dock me for it when I needed to work home, maybe a day here or there where I was sick. And I could just say, hey, I am very sick today. Please don't make me come in and puke in my trash can. And he worked with me during that season. When I was a single mom, there were days I had to work from home when my kids were sick, and I got a little bit of grace of being able to do that. I couldn't take advantage of it, but it was there. So I think that like having that environment is, you have to have, there's got to be some flexibility. There just has to be some flexibility. If you want to see women, that's how you're going to see them.
Yeah, and I think another thing is that, I mean, there's so much there to unpack as everything that you're saying is. I just love it. But I think, Destiny, you mentioned it when I even asked about the women in leadership. You're like, well, look, here's the deal. Like, it wasn't even on my radar. And I think that's so important because we box ourselves in without even realizing it so often. Whether it's that we grew up in poverty, so we think like that's the best we can do, or whatever, we're a woman and our mother was a school teacher, so we think that's the only role you can do, which is a very dignified, awesome role. Our dad was an oil and gas person, so we think that's what we have to do, rather than saying, hey, wait a second, this whole world is in front of me. What do I like to do? And sometimes it just ends up by default. A lot of us just like start in something, and then if it's a natural thing, it just builds, and all of a sudden 20 years goes by and you're like, whoa, wait a second, I'm like leading a company. This is weird, but you just lean into yourself and your skill set, try and nurture and roll. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, what you are. I mean, I went to the PTA. This goes back a couple years, but our school is struggling financially with the PTA, and they weren't getting support. And we have 9 children. My wife is very busy at home, and I'd be like, hey, "Come on, can you we got to do something about the PTA?" And she's like, "I can't. You can." And I'm like, "No, that's weird. A male on the PTA, like that's odd." And she's like, "What's weird about it? Finance. You can go help them take care of finance." Well, I was on the finance committee for the school, so I just joined the PTA. And was it? Yeah, I would like, let's meet at 11:30 because my kids do nap time at 2 o'clock. So like I'm leaving work and like driving with these women to go to a PTA meeting. But who cares, right? Why is that on my radar? That's weird. Just go do you. And it doesn't matter male, female, what race you are, where you're from, none of it. And in fact, that's what makes North Dakota today one of the most beautiful places in the country. Is recently when I was at the Williston Rec Center, because it was in the winter and it was cold. And well, actually, I mean, winter in May, right? That's a real thing in North Dakota. So we were doing a shutdown at one of the compressor stations, and it was so wickedly cold. It was literally 12 degrees and howling snow. It was just terrible. And so, anyways, I'm on the track and I counted at least 5 different nationalities that were down, on the lower area playing basketball together, playing like a game of intramural basketball together. And they were all smiling. There was dads, there was moms, there was little kids, there was big kids, there was every shape, size, everything you could find at the Williston Rec Center. And I thought, in all the places I travel across the country, this is one of the most diverse places I have ever seen. But here's the thing, nobody cares. It's not as though it was intentionally set up to be a diverse place. It's not as though there was no intentionality in anything. It was just that there was an economic boom. All these people came, and the people who wanted to stay stayed. The people who want to do great things and learn cool things, they stayed. And boom, here you have it, just a big mix of different people. But there's never this feeling like, oh, that's weird, there's a woman at the table. Oh, that's weird, there's a male at the table. And I think it's only in our own heads that we box ourselves in. So folks who are writing books about, women in leadership, women here, men in this, I'm always like, what? Why don't you just write a line? Quit acting like you're boxed into something, because you're not. Now, certainly, as you said, as an industry, and I look forward to in the oil and gas industry, I think it's going to come to in time destiny. I have some folks on our team who have a lot of these challenges that you went through, whether it could be a divorce and, what do we do with the children, and childcare is such an extreme problem for so many right now. But all of those things, again, are like, hey, don't box yourself in. Let's get creative. Let's figure out how we can make this work. Oh, so what? You don't have camp this week. You can work from home. That's an acceptable deal, right? We still need production, and I feel like that's always going to be the case. But quit boxing yourself in. So you mentioned the should and the reality. Like in leadership, we shouldn't use the word should. I think that's really powerful when we think about women in leadership, because it's like, it's not as though women should be in leadership or that men should only be in leadership, or, I should be there, but I'm a woman, so I'm not there, or I should be there, but I'm a man, so I'm not there. Knock that off. How do I get there? How do I get there?
Right. Yep. And I will tell you, like, being the first female ops manager, being the first and the only ops director, guess what? I was hired and mentored by men. I'm here right now, and no woman ever hired me. I've never been hired by a woman. I've been hired by men the whole time. They supported me. They mentored me. They grew me. I am who I am today because men invested in me. They didn't see one or the other. They just saw someone who had talent and had ability, and they invested. And I took what they gave me and I applied it. And I love that. I'm so grateful for the men who truly invested in me so I could be where I am today. I appreciate those men. I'm so glad that they didn't care and that they just gave of themselves. And I will forever be grateful for them. Like everyone kind of was like, oh, you're the first ops manager. I'm like, yeah, what about the first man who hired the first female ops manager? He didn't get no credit, but I'm telling you, I wouldn't be in this role had he not done it. I almost feel like it's a little more credit there, but the truth is that I beat out the other people, and I deserve to be there, and I know that it was there. So I will say, being a little different, I know that sometimes, like, especially being in that role, that my team, they were not negative, but they did kind of wonder what it was going to be like reporting to a female. They didn't share that with me, of course, at first. Now we have got a lot of relationship, but they're like, yeah, we didn't really know what to expect. We didn't know you're coming from another state. Like, you came from California to North Dakota, so they were freaking out already. So actually, like, in every first speech I gave in all the areas, I was like, by the way, I was only in California for 3 years. I'm not from California. I just want to clarify. If you're from California, you're awesome, okay? I don't want to say anything about it, but they were a little worried about some politics, okay? We're not even going to touch that. But at the end of the day, people learned who I was. Like, time will tell all things. People can think a lot of things in their head, but if you just keep your head down and you keep doing what you're doing, people are going to see it. Like, my reliability, my work, my performance, it speaks for itself. And at the end of the day, that's true for each person. Each person's performance, it speaks for it. I mean, who those people are, and investing in them. So yeah, I think, like, put your head down, do the work. You're not going to promote unless you're good at your current job. I tell people that, like, you actually have to be good at your current job to promote. Like, we don't promote people who are like struggling and being problems in their current position. So, like, be good at your current job, learn how to do it well. Also, I will say that a lot of times, especially if you're in bigger organizations or things like that, promotions, they come with moves. That means you're going to have to move. But I loved what you said at the beginning, which is places are how you make it. Every place that I've lived, I have had things I've loved about it and things I didn't like about it. And it's really just what you choose to focus on. And you can choose to be a positive person and look at that. But I have enjoyed that. Just don't let fear make your decisions for you. If I let fear dictate my decisions, I would not be where I am today. Because it's really scary to step in a role that is in another state that you've never done before. It's really scary to move your family and your children and wonder if you're going to be okay. It's scary to take on extra work and wonder if, man, did I overextend myself? Don't let fear dictate what you decide, because sometimes, just so you know, the fear doesn't go away. You probably are still going to feel it, but do it scared. Do it anyways. Do it even while you're feeling fear, because sometimes they're scary, but opportunities come. Do it anyways. Do it scared.
How do you do it scared? Like, what are some of the tactics you use to help isolate that scared? Like, for me, sometimes even today, when I'll go stand in front of our team, for example, I'll get these weird, like, oh, do I even know what I'm doing? And then it's like, stop it, Shane. No one cares if you know what you're doing. They want to hear your message. So I try to, like, isolate the fear. But I've often thought, how do you do that? What are some of the skills to, like, isolate that fear out?
You used one already, and the first one is self-talk. I think that makes a big difference. The things you say to yourself matter. And I don't think we nearly pay as much attention to what we say to ourselves. But like when you're in those places where it's like, I can do this. I might not know how to do this today, but I'm going to figure it out. I know that I have. Even going back to your past record, like, hey, I made this move and I went from one position to the next. And I learned how to do it. I didn't know how to do it last time, but I did. And that means I can do this again. And that I can learn this. This is like that self-talk. And when the self-talk is struggling, you need to have those people in your life who can do that talk for you and be in your corner and say, hey, you've got this. And they see your strengths and they can lean in that and say, hey, you can do this and you got this. And the truth is, like, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to do it perfect. You'll look at like the first time you did a speech or the first time you spoke at a meeting and you're like, man, that did not go well. Just learn from it and get better. And, but I think like that fear, you have to talk to yourself and say, hey, like, I can do this. I know that I can do this. And as you start doing that, it really changes. And then have other people, because sometimes it struggles to get that self-talk away from being negative on yourself and doing it. So I think that's huge.
Mind games are a real thing. Your mind can
Yes.
run on you, and you can train your mind to do it differently if you repeat to yourself. That's just great. Destiny, I cannot believe we're out of time because this has been so awesome. And I feel like there's so many. I literally had it like a list of questions prepared to ask you, and I didn't even ask any of them. So I think that's exactly speaks to your leadership style. You're engaging, you're super fun. This has been great. I look forward to you gotta like write a book and give us some tips here long term. I hope that's on your list of agenda. But and there's so many little nuggets, which is what I think is so important for people, whether you're listening today or you listen to some other podcast or you read some sort of a book or you go to a conference. I was telling our team on the way to the Williston conference recently that don't go expecting to learn everything. Go and find something. Find a thing. And even when you listen to a great leader like Destiny, take a nugget and try and go build on that nugget, because there was some really cool ones here. The should versus the reality. The fact that you had grace in different seasons of your life, and I'm sure you give your team that grace. Your quote about you have everything to give and nothing to prove is so powerful. Like we forget that too often, that we're here to give, not to take or to prove. We're here to give. be vulnerable, asking big questions, getting people aligned, and showing them your dream. Like these are all things I think that we can take home and do little nuggets. And leadership is a self thing, and why people really matter. And I mean, the fact that you were like interning from college and then you get hired by that company and you move all from Colorado to Texas to California and to North Dakota, and I can see it in you. And literally in person when we met at the conference, I seen that, yeah, you are the kind of person that's always willing to learn, always willing to receive feedback, and have just a ton of self-awareness. So I thank you very much, Destiny, for sharing this leadership journey with our listeners. And my hope is that they can take something and go build on that like you have.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this. This was wonderful. I feel like we could talk for hours longer. So Shane, thank you so much. It's an honor that I even got to be a part of this. And just remember, the sky's the limit, guys. You have so much more in you than you even realize. So you guys have a great day. I love speaking with you.